I mean, dude.
That's another house.
Holy shit, there's another house over here. Alright, good morning everybody. So today's probably going to be one of the more unusual ones. This will probably be its own category, but I guess I'll give you a quick situation update. So a good part of the Florida-Georgia border is currently burning. It's pretty unusual. I have never heard of this happening. I've never seen this happen, and I have lived down here for roughly a decade at this point. So what we're doing right now, I got a couple people that are actually viewers that are affected by this, and they did reach out through the Discord to ask for some help. So this morning I called out my customers and told them, hey, we're going to delay a day, I got an emergency. I do also have 2 friends that are affected and live directly in the area. They're under a mandatory evacuation as of this morning. So basically there was a fire that was last night, about 400 acres around 6 p.m. yesterday. Last night that grew to about 5,000, and it is now, as of this morning, right now, and it is 7:30, it is only 15% contained, 20% contained, so they haven't really made much headway on this. The issue with this area is that it's all woods. I mean, you can see here, if we look outside, this is everything we're going to be doing. There's no neighborhood, there's a very small town. They don't have the water infrastructure to deal with this. This is not something that happens on the East Coast. So I'm on my way down there. I got the TJ packed. You can see we got a couple of shovels. There's a rake back there. We got the generator, fuel, water. We got extra food. We got a quick bug out kit, if you will, or a destination bag. And we got some tools back there. We got some chainsaws. We got some, like I already said, some shovels. We got all sorts of stuff back there. So we're going to be heading down there this morning, seeing what we run into and what we can do to help. So it looks like we're going to be cutting down trees and digging fire ditches. So here we go. All right, bear with me through the narration part of this video. There are some logistics you simply have to know moving forward in order to properly understand what's happening in the rest of this video. So logistically, understanding to get to this pin, which is a friend of ours who had moved there 2 weeks prior to the footage you're about to see, required quite a bit of route recon and planning. This would be a reoccurring issue logistically for volunteers and firefighters for the rest of the day. Here's a couple of photos that were sent to me by those friends of mine from the night before I responded. This would have been Tuesday night. I started out on Wednesday morning. This is a fire we'd be responding to. On Tuesday night, it was reported to be 400 acres and 0% contained. By Wednesday morning, it was 5,000 acres and only 10% contained. Now, when I initially packed the vehicle, I packed the vehicle with the anticipation that I would be responding to a large-scale power outage disaster. And the reason that I wanted to focus on this power outage stuff and provide power was because there was an inability to be able to energize people's wells. And that's what's going to keep the irrigation systems on and keep the sprinklers running and keep people's houses, wet to prevent that fire from spreading across their yards and onto their homes. Because people were unable to energize their wells, we would lose several homes throughout the day, which you guys will see at the end of the video. But understand that was a logistic we were considering at the time. This logistic also applied to firefighters. They were unable to get water from generic locations. It was hard to keep their water systems on. It was also very difficult for them to find areas and points where they could hook up and get water and keep the towers full. You know, these water towers logistically are only built for so much. It was very easy to overwhelm them, and it was very hard to keep power consistent to fill them. So that was a problem. Now, moving forward from here, you're going to see this haze pulling into the area. This was pretty commonplace all throughout the East Coast and is still commonplace at time of narration, which is Friday, so 2 days after the filming of this video. Now, I wanted to talk about the next part of this where people are going to be a little confused. There were several dozen different fires all throughout the state of Georgia, and a lot of them had a higher priority level than this fire. The reason that is because Atkins, Georgia is just a small town with about 300 homes. It doesn't have much in terms of industry. It doesn't have much in terms of agriculture. It's basically just forested land that a lot of people live out in and work in Brunswick. So as a result, logistically, they simply didn't have very much in terms of assets. The fire department would have to drive an hour away to get water, and in order to get it back, they had to reroute plan into the area. So what ended up happening as a result of how many fires there were and how many different houses were affected and how much and how thick this haze was, it became very difficult to identify where the fire was in the first place. So as soon as I got there, essentially what happened is we had our entire logistical plan changed into a recon asset. The fire department and DNR, which only had one strike team or 2 dozers at the time, were struggling to find the fire. So we got reassessed and then redistributed into a recon role where our job was to go out, find the fire, give the fire a ranking based off of its size, its movement, in other words, its direction that it's moving, and its proximity to structures. So we had to give it, a priority level. How serious was the fire? How fast did they need to respond to it? And where they needed to put assets. So that's what you'll be seeing for the rest of the video. So the pin that I'm driving to is roughly maybe a mile beyond where this taller tree is right here. That's kind of the standalone. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop once I get into the smoke just a little bit, or maybe at this tree, and throw the drone up. Looking down that way, there's a good bit of smoke. I'm going to zoom in so you can see the haze. But looking down that way, I mean, we're pretty close. So let's go ahead, let's get this up. All right, so the drone doesn't have audio, so you're going to hear me narrate some of this because I need you to understand what the thought process is. Before I get this thing in the air, please note there are no fixed wing assets. We were not high enough on the priority list. That's part of the reason that this fire in particular grew so large so fast. We just didn't have any of these assets, which is why we were called out to help here in the first place and why we ended up shifting into a scout and recon asset over, our initial kind of generator, I guess, or logistical runner asset. So from here, you're going to see that haze I was talking about that was basically all over the east. You're going to see some clear areas behind me, but understand that hidden within the smoke here in front of us, there are dozens of their own little separate fires just pocketed throughout this area. We cannot see them because of how thick the smoke is. Obviously, on the trailing edge of the smoke, in this particular case, there was a very ever so slight breeze moving towards the east. So as I pan to the right here in just a second, you're going to notice that it's very easy to see the leading edge of this on the west side. But understand that all throughout the smoke that you're seeing here, there are dozens of different spot fires. So you can see how hard it is to go out there and actually find these separate fires hidden within this. And I didn't find out until later during this video and during this process that the state actually doesn't have thermal or ISR sensors on their aircraft. So how we're seeing it on the drone right now is how they see it in their aircraft, which I thought was crazy. For a state budget, thermal might as well be free. So very surprised to hear it. So as we go through here and as you're looking around, understand there are fires in every direction. So you can see very quickly how hard it was and how important it was to have people with 4x4s and the logistics to be able to, confidently go out and find these different fires and be able to report them and be able to route plan and build a, system behind how we can get a fire truck to that location or how we can get the dozers there and how to properly identify their size, their direction, and their proximity to structures so that we could get people in the right spots. It was pretty difficult. All right, so at this point, we threw the drone up and the fire is basically directly through this brush, and it's essentially the front of it and I'm going to mark it. I'm going to go forward. There's a couple of guys here working with a small lake, and I'm not sure they know how close it is to them. The wind is hitting my face, so it's probably going to continue to move that way as a fire, but we're going to go establish that front, and then I'm going to head this way to where the town is and let them know that it is in fact going their direction. Okay, so we can see the haze is starting to get a little bit thicker as we go here. I shot a heading on the compass, and it's pretty much exactly 200. So it's 197. So this road is going to take us, directly south. It's not taking us in a straight line 197, obviously, but I should be able to grid my way over to it. So we'll just keep this moving. I'm going to go for probably another maybe mile, and then I'm going to throw the drone back up real quick and just go up and back down with it, so that way I can, save some battery. It's only got about, 15 minutes on a nice clear day like this. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try to save that. But for right now, we have a pretty good idea of where we're going. Actually just passed a little bit of some burning debris, so I'm gonna guess we're real close. All right, so this is the last time I'll narrate this for you guys before the rest of the video plays out, so you won't hear from me for the end of the video. But again, we had the same clearance. We knew the aviation assets at this point we're going to be there until about 1:30, 2 o'clock. It's around 10:30, maybe 11 as I fly the drone here at this time during the footage. So we have plenty of time, we have plenty of clearance. Now, going up, we've moved much further into the smoke plume, so you're going to see how much thicker it is. And it is still unbelievably difficult to identify where these fires are. So as we get a little bit further into this, as I'm going to fly about a half mile away from myself into the fire, you're going to start to see different sources from where the smoke is coming from. And it's really hard from the air to identify what is just a stump that may be burning from a residual fire and where the actual front is, which is a tough thing to have to distinguish from the air. You have to imagine if you're in a plane, you're moving at 100, 150 miles an hour, orbiting or loitering around this position, and it's very easy to misidentify or to miss details along with this fire. With the drone, we have the added benefit of, being able to hover. So we're able to get kind of a longer bird's eye view in one direction. But you can see here there's two different sources, one on the right side and one on the left side. That left side is likely a stump, but we don't know for sure. And the one on the right side is likely a little spot fire that's growing. Now, why it's so important to lay eyes on this, if the dozers are, redirected, because you can see that fire is moving in proximity to this little lake, which has a house on it and has some vehicles. They're probably going to go 20 or 30 minutes out of their way from the front, which is another half mile probably to the right side of filming, which we saw earlier. That's where they were located. So to get them back on site would take like 20 or 30 minutes moving at 1 or 2 miles an hour while stomping through the woods. It is absolutely worth the time to send somebody out to confirm that that is in fact, the leading edge or spot fire that needs to get put out. If it is not, then you are wasting the dozer's time, or you're sending assets and wasting logistical time that could result in other houses being caught and burned down. So that's a really important thing to understand. And you have to understand, because of how spotty the aerial ability and the logistics for finding this fire were, we're going to end up losing 37 homes by the end of the day. Okay, we're going to have some pretty rough going here ahead of us. Basically, we're going to have to turn into this field. See if I can get this in here. Back up. It looks like it's going to be right at the end of this field. It's going to be pretty brutal getting back in there. As you can tell, this is not really a path, but I think I can walk into this so the Jeep can probably get into it too. So going into this field, you can see at the very end of this, that's where a lot of that smoke signature was coming from. And the wind, if you can see this stuff blowing, is coming into us at this point. We are definitely going to be faster if we need to be in terms of getting the hell away. But if we can kind of establish again exactly where this line is, we're going to be able to figure out, what we need to do here. Of course, this is not at all the environment that this thing was built to be in, but again, 4x4s are what's going to make this possible. This town, again, is just over this direction, so we're just trying to, again, work together to figure out where exactly this fire line is. Not everybody's going to have access to drones. Not everybody's tracking. As you can tell, nobody's out here for this specific one. So again, like I said, if I can use this field as a fire break and skim the corners, then that's what I'll do, and we should be able to kind of get away with maybe canceling this line out. If it's a little bigger than I expect it to be, then I'll just get out of the way and let them know that this is in fact out here and move in this direction. I'm seeing this line right here. Again, there's still nobody out here, so we got to be able to find these, so we kind of know how to get out here, one, and two, where to send people. There are so many fires out in the state right now, and all over the place. And I'll send some other videos that some of the guys are taking. You know, I got another guy who works in construction and had to run out and, you know, grab some equipment they had dropped off as part of their rental company. They got to go save their equipment. He's got some pretty gnarly photos of one up in Baxley. So I'm going to be pulling up to this one here in just a second. Hopefully I get a good idea of the size and what direction it's moving. If I can do something about it, I just will. Cancel this one out and keep moving. So we're going to see. Looks like we found this rut of the fire. I'm not exactly sure where it starts and ends. Again, a big part of this is trying to find a way to get trucks out here. These are big, heavy trucks. They can't do this. I mean, you can see how deep these ruts are. I mean, this is my leg. It's about knee height. So I'm gonna have to crawl out that direction. Looks like over there is gonna be the safest route, but I can see this entire line right here is on fire. And the wind is coming directly at my face. So this field is gonna act like a fire break. So we're gonna wanna go check out that flank and see if it's gonna get past us. Just wanted to veer off a little bit here so you guys can see what the trees are looking like out on these fires. So there's a little bit of flame left here. You can see, I mean, it just destroyed all this. The pines are obviously fine, but all this lower brush is totally gone. All right, so we need to get to that side of the field over there. There's not really a way to do that from where I'm at. So we're gonna go back here and cut right, back where that path was. And then we'll kind of hop onto that from there and make our way down that embankment that they had made back into town. I did go ahead and call them and let them know that this particular area at this point is contained, and that the wind is pushing it directly into this. So hopefully this is about the last couple hours of this fire, and then we'll head into town. All right. And back towards town. So I did just make another call just to let them know that I'm coming down this trail, because it's going to kind of spit me out pretty much right onto the house. And they did tell me that there's a spot up ahead. Apparently they got a drone up there with some form of thermal, and they're saying that there could be some stuff to my left. So there's a chance it may have jumped this. So they're going to have me go look just to make sure. It looks like, I don't know, I see four-wheelers and stuff out here, so I'm sure there are other people out, you know, running this trail, or just, you know, scouting behind one another just to make sure this is working. This usually does a pretty good job, but we're going to see if anything has happened here. So I'll give you guys an update in just a minute. So judging by the size of this smoke ahead of us, right, that's what they're concerned about. So they actually just had me go down a little service road just as I cut off the last video. They had me go down about a quarter mile further south towards town. So now they want me to hustle out here and just make sure. And I'm starting to see why they weren't bringing 4x4s out here. They want me to try and do it because there's no freaking way that the TJ is going to make it through this. So let's look around. Let's be smart. That's all mud. This is pretty gnarly. If I hug this right side, I should be able to get to this right here and figure out what's going on. I'm gonna guess they couldn't go any further. This little creek right here, you can see behind me that's continuing to go. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go back further down that service road. They're just simply not ahead of it on this side yet, from the looks of it. So I'm gonna let them know it's outside this containment from the looks, because I can see this wraps around right here. It does not go that way. So that's a hell of a stick. That is a hell of a stick. All right. This thing might as well be part of my car right now, so we're just gonna get it off. Stuff's not going to spread at this point. There's nothing left for it to really run off. But you can see how recent all of it was going through here. I mean, you can see it got large enough. It's burning the tops of these trees. See the effects here. You can see that it jumped across, so this is where they're starting to struggle. Sorry about that. Looks like they ripped out a culvert right here, so I gotta yeah, they ripped out a culvert back there. So it's a little steeper than I wanted it to be, so we're gonna keep it going. Now, typically, if I do any of my videos, they're in HD, but to to save battery for how long and how much filming we're going to be doing, I'm keeping it this 30. See if I can beef it up when I get back to the computer and editing, but so you guys are tracking. Trees are a little less burned coming on the right side now, so I'm going to guess that we're getting awfully close to the front of this thing. Now, typically, if I do any of my videos, they're in HD, but to save battery for how long and how much filming we're going to be doing, I'm keeping it this 30. See if I can beef it up when I get back to the computer and editing, but so you guys are tracking. So at this point in the video, you guys are starting to see how hard it is to find these fires. The majority of what we've been doing up until this point has just been trying to find the fire you just saw. And though it doesn't look large, that extended for several dozen yards well into the woods, so it was a decent sized front and moving towards a neighborhood. At this stage, aviation assets are set to be on site within about 30 minutes. So I had spent the majority of my morning going out and trying to find these. You can see Georgia Power here is attempting to keep up, and a couple of other things you'll see as I'm driving down the highway here, trying to grab some water bottles and just some basic food items for some of the neighborhoods that were affected back in those wood areas. Look at that. Now, I'm showing you guys this map because I wanted to caveat into what we talked about earlier, and that was logistically getting from A to B. Some of these roadways you couldn't use because there were trees down or the fire was up against them. So we were taking routes, obviously, around them, and the firefighters were either doing the exact same thing or the other volunteers were having to do this. So you'll see in just a second the type of roads that the map was telling us to go down. So if you didn't have a 4x4, a lot of this was just inaccessible to you. So we've linked up with the Forestry Service at this point, and we're kind of just doing some scouting with them. They just got, their aircraft have been on site now for maybe 2 hours. So most of what we were doing earlier is kind of picked up by the state. It's starting to get a little darker. I think the confirmed number of houses was 37 homes have been destroyed by this so far in Atkins, Georgia alone. So at this point, you can kind of just see how bad it is. They're not keeping up with it. So more equipment and gear are arriving. So. All right, this image is worth a couple of seconds to talk about. So this gentleman here holding onto the tailgate with the radio in front of him, his name was Frank. He's with DNR. The guy probably at this point has been up for 40 hours, maybe more at this point. This is the guy who is directly involved with the front strike team dealing with this. It is basically him, The other gentleman to his right, you can see the game wardens and one of the sheriffs there fighting this fire. These guys are basically the head running this by themselves, and logistically absolutely unfathomably outnumbered in what they're up against. This is one of the largest fires in Georgia history, and at this point in time, it is basically just us and these guys working this fire with a couple of other volunteers. So it is unbelievably difficult to put into words how much work these guys have been putting in. So I just wanted to reach out. If Frank ever sees this for whatever reason, I appreciate what he's doing. It'd be awesome if you left a comment. I owe you some lunch for all the work that you're putting into it. But understand that these teams were working the best that they could with what they had, with the logistics to them. It was more on the state side for their failure to be able to identify where these fires were going to be and to get the proper assets on time where they needed to be. But these guys were doing everything they could with what they had. So at this stage, real quick, they're actually pushing us out back towards the highway just because it's going to start getting dark. The wind is going to start picking up. So everybody here is going to finish up what they're doing and start kind of making their way back out towards the highways. So you'll see us start heading that way, and you'll see all the fires we run into on the way out.
Oh, there's plenty of bugs. And all over in the parts right next to the fire because they're all spread out of it.
Oh. When I guess those lights up ahead must be that tanker, huh? We are about to make this real tight. That's for sure.
That should be a spot right up here. We can move out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here's about a spot.
Right before the fire, swing a right. Yeah, just right where that is, swing a right there, right there. Yep. Yeah, it's that awkward time where you can't see anything at all. The headlights are barely helping. There you go.
I mean, I should be fine. I'm the one with the fucking specialty eyes over
here. Yeah. Hey, pull up your phone real quick. So I don't.
My phone's better.
Is it? Oh, I suppose. Yeah. Let's just keep this moving for a little bit here.
This just goes straight.
Yeah.
I'm
drive right past it. There's the other forestry. Oh. It's just so dark, it's hard to see. I mean, you can see it flickering in there. Yeah, you can see like embers and stuff glowing. Hopefully that's not part of the fire over there. Those are houses and shit. What's up? Turn around. There was fire literally all the way up to the beginning of this road, like across the street from the house. All right, from this point, I want to be really clear with everybody watching. We are not out going around and trying to monetize arguably the worst day of these people's lives. That's not my goal. It's not my intent with these videos. My intent is to educate people on how to better prepare for this kind of stuff and kind of the expectations that come with it, what you can do to better serve your community and maybe prevent this in the future. Who knows, maybe if we had more scouting parties out there or more people involved or got power out to these people, you know, they had a chance. Obviously, there's no way to know that for sure, but understand that when we turned around and we were asked to turn around on that phone call, this is what we ended up finding. So it's just more damage than we could have expected at the time. Now, as part of this, I want to explain very briefly and very quickly in this video
My channel was very recently monetized. Any donations that are given as a part of this channel are going to go to the midwifery in Midway, Georgia, and to one of the 3 local churches that have been just so incredibly involved and of course just as wonderful as they can be given the situation. So getting these guys some food, some water, some clothes again. I mean, these guys did not have much time to grab anything for that matter and leave. So if we can help them out, I'd love to be able to help them out. You know, these guys are going to have insurance deductibles on this, and they're going to need it. So if you guys are so kind as to willing to do that, I would be more than happy. Anybody who decides to join a membership with this, you know, I'm going to turn this into a 501c3 here, hopefully sooner than later. So you'll be getting reports on what your money is used for and what we're doing to help these communities. So understand, I, again, am not trying to come at this with trying to make money off of the loss of somebody else.
Anything on the edge is where you'll see it. Use HVAC there?
Oh yeah, just totally melted.
Got
Nothing.
a water heater over here. Kitchen is right here. That's someone's bed.
All right, you guys get some vented frustration here at the end of the video. And there's some reason behind it, and I want to explain why that is. It is now Saturday at 4 o'clock. Where my frustration comes on this is that as of right now, the fire is at 20,000 acres and it's 7% contained. In other words, this fire is totally out of control. It has now grown to a size that the state has literally never seen before, and it cannot handle it. 120 homes are destroyed as of this morning. I'm sure at this point, with how fast it has grown, the last quarter of Atkins is probably going to be destroyed. It is not on the news because it does not affect the elites in California or the Beverly Hills, whatever the hell. This is not going to be on the news. Though this is the largest single disaster ever recorded in Georgia's history, ever, since records started, this is simply just not going to have any coverage, and a lot of people don't even know about it. So my goal with this is to bring some awareness to the fact that this is happening, and then some awareness to the fact that, as we have been saying, the state is underprepared. Federally, it's underprepared. Every system that you rely on is understaffed, is underdeveloped, and is just not capable of handling the situations that we are starting to see all of the time. This independence that comes with this channel, what we're trying to teach you, is so important as a result. Now, of course, I'm going to have to plug this Discord because people reached out to me via Discord on this. That's how I knew where to go. That's how I ended up getting the contacts for DNR and the firefighting staff down there to be able to volunteer in the first place, was through them. So that Discord's working as intended, and I encourage you to join because maybe you have those contacts or you'd like to be involved in your community to help them when it comes to situations like this. All we need to do is save one home or one neighborhood, and we're making all the difference, right? So please understand that's where I'm coming from. The state is praying that it rains, and I am telling you now, it has not rained today. It was supposed to rain all day. There's a 50% chance it's down to 10. This fire will continue through the weekend and well into next week. It may go all week. Until it rains, it's not going to stop. So understand, I am not here to fearmonger it. It's not my intent. It's not my goal. I'm trying to bring awareness to how bad it actually is because no one's covering it, because it doesn't affect people that, I guess, that matter. So thank you guys for watching. If you donate understand it is going to go to the midwifery, which is taking in people right now. It is 2 miles south of me. It's in Midway, Georgia. It's the only midwifery there. If you want to do your directions directly through that, call them, send them what they need. They'd be more than happy. There are some local churches, down in Atkins that definitely need the support. I personally want to go down and vet them. I know several churches who aren't always reliable when it comes to donations, and I want to go to a church to make sure that it is somewhere that something is happening. I will make that decision. If you donate to me, understand that is where it's going to go. I will find it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening to the frustrations of this. Do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and share this. It can't get much worse than this in the state of Georgia. It's worth bringing some awareness to. Thank you.